Good afternoon, everybody. POGLifeActual here. Sorry I haven't been posting in quite a while. I just got my YouTube video started a couple months ago, and I'm kind of new to this, and I got a lot of things going on, active duty, life getting in the way, but nonetheless, I would like to respond to a comment that I received on my last video. It's going to be by OSUT. I hope I pronounced this correctly, but he said, "I'm a Marine veteran and I'm going to MEPS Friday. Do you have any advice for basic? Do they really treat prior service well, or just like the rest of the population? And do we do the whole basic training again?" Well, OSUT, that's a little bit of a multi-layered question, but I'm gonna get to it. So, the answer is it depends on how long you've been out. Okay, so pretty much when I went through and I saw a few prior service applicants at basic training for betting, which is where I went for OSUT, that were day zeroed. Day zeroed meaning they did have to restart the whole basic training over. Generally, the couple guys that I spoke to, it's because, and these were prior Marines, by the way, former Marines, were because they were out for 5 years or more. So that was coming up on 3 years ago. So keep in mind that these kind of rules change, but for the most part, as far as I'm tracking, if you've been out for 5 years or more, yes, you have to redo basic training again. Now, when you do your your grade determination, and you will still go to basic training and you will still wear the rank that you were determined to be at your grade determination board. However, depending on the situation, I also have a prior service lieutenant in my troop / company right now who is also a former Marine, was former Marine enlisted, and officers in the Army do have to go through basic training as well. And he did get day zeroed. So I did not get day zeroed. I was only out for a little bit less than 2 years. So I inserted into basic training where they start learning their job, the AIT portion, if you will. I went to OSUT because I have a combat arms MOS, one station unit training, meaning it's from start to finish 22 weeks where you do your first 10 weeks as basic training, and your second, the next 12 weeks as AIT or your job training, but it'll be the same drill sergeants that carry you on through the whole thing. I was inserted in black phase, so right after the soldiers became soldiers and are transitioning into their job training. So that would be it. That is the determination on whether or not you will have to do basic training again. Now, as far as how I was treated, keep in mind, one station unit training is basic training and AIT combined, and you have the same drill sergeants that carry these recruits or privates over from day zero all the way to graduation. So it's a little bit different than going to AIT. Now, my wife was formerly in the Army, and she was a 25 Bravo IT specialist, and she went to AIT after basic. She only did her 10 weeks at Fort Jackson, and then she went to her AIT at Fort Gordon. So AIT is completely different than basic training or OSUT in that you are going to school for your job. Now, if it is determined that you do not have to do basic training and you are able to select or are selected for an MOS that is not combat arms or does not have a OSUT basic training or OSUT training evolution, then you will completely skip basic training and go straight to AIT. Now, the way I was treated at AIT, or I apologize, OSUT, we were in black phase, so those recruits were now considered soldiers. It doesn't matter though, they were still privates, just basically they had not even left Fort Benning yet, so they were still treated like recruits. They were still smoked, they were still, disciplinary action was still carried out on them, and then a lot of times when they mess up, this thing happens where they get candy caned. Candy cane being you go back to they basically act like you're going back to red phase for a temporary period of time. It's a disciplinary tactic that they use for corrective training. Basically, they get treated for a little while like they're in red phase again, which is the first phase of Army basic training, which is, typically the most intensive because they have to be molded from civilians into soldiers. So for me, the way I was treated is it depends on the drill sergeant. I will be completely transparent with that. There was no communication between these drill sergeants. Okay, so I had several drill sergeants, and some of them would be like, hey, you're here to learn your job. Your prior service, you know the deal. You're here to learn tanks. I'm a tanker, 19 kilo. You're here to learn tanks. We don't need to mold you. We don't need to transition you. So they would basically back off and leave me alone. As prior service, I was able to, for the most part, I was told that I was able to check out at 1700 after the training day was over. And I had my own bay. So all the prior service candidates, which were there was 7 of them in my basic training class, or OSUT class, I should say. We were allowed to, for the most part, to check out at 1700, and we can go to the PX, go to the gym, whatever the case may be. Obviously, if the training day carried on past that and it got too late, it is what it is. We still had to be back at the bay for formation before lights out, which was typically 2000, 2100 if I remember correctly. And then they would give you like an hour of free time, or give the privates an hour of free time before lights out was initiated. And we, the prior service, had to be at that accountability formation. So between 17 and 2021, we were generally good. Now, on Sundays, Sundays typically, for the most part, is where the privates get their religious, they get the ability to go to church, and there usually is no training activity scheduled that day. So they spent most of the day in the bay, and then when I went through COVID on Sundays, if the drill sergeant was nice, he or she would pull out this chest where all their cell phones were and let them have their cell phones for 3-4 hours, whatever. Definitely not a thing when I was in Marine Corps boot camp, but that's what occurred. Now, for us, we were able to check out at morning formation. We would be at a morning accountability formation at 0630. And for the most part, the official policy was that we were able to check out, and we were able to spend the day on or off post as long as we didn't drink. And then we would have to come back by evening formation before lights out. So we were strictly told, since we are in a training status, we are not allowed to consume alcoholic beverages, but we were able to get Uber, taxi, what have you, go out in the town, yada, yada, yada. All of this is in a perfect scenario. There were certain drill sergeants who did not get the memo, and they would treat us like trash. And I've had drill sergeants tell me, I don't care that you're prior service, you're a trainee and you're here, and you're going to act like a trainee. So there was a lot of miscommunication when we got smoked, when the privates got smoked. There was times where the privates would be getting corrective training. They would be getting smoked, i.e. push-ups, sit-ups, V-ups, whatever. Getting corrective training for a plethora of different things, little things that you can mess up as a basic trainee. And some drill sergeants, like initially when that happened, I got down with them and started doing the push-ups and whatever. Who cares? No big deal. But a drill sergeant came up to me and the other prior service applicants, prior service trainees, and said, "What are you guys doing?" Get up. You guys are good. You guys are prior service. Get up. Stand over there. This is not for you. This is for them. However, that drill sergeant would leave and another drill sergeant would come, and the privates would do something for whatever reason, and they would start getting smoked, and then we would just be standing by, and then the drill sergeant would look at us and be like, what the hell are you guys doing? You guys are here with them. Get on your face right now. So it was like, and we would be like, what the hell? We were told by this other drill sergeant that we didn't have to participate in the corrective training, but then this drill sergeant wanted us to participate. So it is what it is. You know, you're going to have to deal with that. If your basic training experience / OSUT experience is like mine, you're just going to have to deal with that. And it's no big deal. If you're prior service, you know the deal. Push-ups, V-ups, whatever. Freaking doing prone rows and all this other crap. Whatever. It's no big deal. You do it, it's over, you go about your merry way, it's not that serious. To the privates, it's like the worst thing in the world. They're out there suffering. Who cares? It's no big deal. Just, okay, we did a little bit of push-ups, we sat in the plank for a little bit when they made it hurt a little bit. Okay, whatever. You know the deal of your prior service. Another thing, this also went into the other privileges that I have discussed. Depending on the drill sergeant on duty, there were times where we would go to check out at 1700 after the training day had concluded, and the drill sergeant on duty would be like, what are you guys doing? We're like, we're checking out. We're allowed to check out at 1700. And then they'll be like, not on my watch, you ain't. So then we would have to go back to the bay and do whatever. Now, I was in a separate bay, the prior service bay. Privates were not allowed in this bay. I did have my phone in my wall locker. I was able to use it. The official rule was I was not allowed to use my phone during the training day. I kept it in my wall locker. After 1700 concluded, if the training day was over and I was back in my bay, I could use it. I was also going to college. I was a full-time student while I was going through OSUT. So I would go back to the bay at the end of the night, and I would whip out my laptop and bang out a few essays and do my school. I was able to have I had my switch. I had a switch, and I would play every now and then. I would do my school. I had my phone. I was able to call my wife. As prior service, I had all these things available to me in my wall locker, in my prior service bay. The privates were not allowed. And also, they will strictly tell you that you are not allowed to share any of these things with the privates. Under there have been issues with prior service trainees sharing their phones, their electronics with the regular basic trainees, initial entry trainees. And then it becomes an issue. And then next thing you know, they're pulling you into the office. They're saying, guess what? Since one of you guys are not on the same page as the rest of you guys, and one of you guys doesn't understand, we're taking all your privileges away. Next thing you know, you're losing your phone, your laptop, everything, your personal electronics. You're losing your ability to check out and go to the gym and Sundays or whatever. You do not want to do that. This happened to me towards the end of my OSUT cycle, where one of the former Marine too, decided to share his dip. I had tobacco, and we were instructed that we could utilize our tobacco, but it could not be in the presence of privates. And if they saw us doing our tobacco, it was game over. There was an instance where we had a prior service trainee share his tobacco with the privates, and it was brought to light. And for like the last 2 weeks, we all lost our privileges. We had to turn in our phones, our laptops, everything. They said, guess what? You are no longer special. You are no longer going to get treated like a grown man or woman. You are now going to turn in all of your personal electronics and everything that you so from now to the end of the cycle, you have the same rights and privileges as these basic trainees. All right, luckily that only lasted for about a week, and then the drill sergeant was nice enough to give us our stuff back. But do not play with fire. Don't do it. If you're a prior service trainee, enjoy the privileges you have because you are prior service. You're going in at that elevated rank. I went in as an E5. I was an NCO. But do not ruin it for everybody else. But basically that is my experience with basic training and how it went for me. It can vary depending on where you go. Fort Benning, Fort Jackson, Fort Leonard Wood, wherever it is you go for basic training, depending on whether you're going to OSUT, whether you're getting day zeroed and having to restart, or whether you're skipping basic training altogether and going straight to AIT, depending on what your MOS is. JSUD, once again, I appreciate you commenting on my video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.